That was a ambient, I guess is what people call it. So yeah, I use a guitar that has a sustainer in it, and I had that on. But the sustainer, you can kind of manipulate that to when it comes in by holding a note for a while. And also it takes a while for the octave to swell. I had the octave mode on. But as far as the pedals go, the idea was to connect a bunch of delay pedals. A few years ago, I had connected three, and I was able to really time those out well and have them work together, where this was much more chaotic because I had just too much going on. So I'll show you what the pedals were that I used to make this. If you want to pan down to the pedal board, this here is a cheap Behringer, it's a delay reverb that does both. And this was set to just a delay setting. This is a petey 2399 Echo chip. It's a delay that I built. I think it's called the Crap Fi delay. And there's the chip there. It's built into a tin that's some sort of a Christmas gift tin. Here's the Behringer reverb machine. They should call it the Behringer tone sucking machine, because when you bypass it, you lose a lot of high end. And then here is Digitech Multiplay, thanks to a guy named petey. And then here is the Nux Time Force, which this is where the signal was split stereo. This is an echo box that was set to like a tape delay. And then this is really cool. This is the first delay in the chain. And so we had this mono echo that has a filter. There's two filters on the repeats, and they kind of change depending on how you set it. Mode 1 is cascade to go up, mode 2 is down. And so this is a really unbelievably cool sounding echo that's not PT2399 based. The guy who makes this is pedalpcb.com, and it's called the Kaleidoscope or the Daydream. It's based on a pedal called the Daydream, so I think it's called the Kaleidoscope. So then I have this distortion. This was set at a Rat with almost all of the treble cut. This is a Snow White Auto Wah, which is an envelope filter. They call it an Auto Wah. This is Dead Astronaut's Trem filter. It has a tremolo and a filter that have separate LFOs, triangle or sine wave adjusters here. And then these are the main rates. And then I cut in, I didn't like how sensitive the pots were, so I cut in smaller value pots in line. So this is a really very difficult pedal for me to build. I had some problems getting it going, but that was the that type of, like Pink Floyd used something similar to this, where they had a tremolo and a filter in one of these days in the freak out part. And that's what this pedal did when I turned it on. So basically, the sound comes in. We have the that I only turned on for a while. This was kind of intermittent. The fuzz was kind of intermittent. So mainly it was this thing, which I had it set on about half, and then I throttled it up at the end into a tape delay where it was split into stereo. So then we're coming out one channel into this PT2399 delay, which was set about heavy feedback, long time, medium on the mix, and then going out to another long delay that was about maybe 1 second. Then this reverb machine, I had that set to this echo setting, which is an old short slapback echo that's about 300 milliseconds now that I think of it. And then, oh yeah, can't forget about this. This was the unbelievably long repeat that kept it going. So yeah, the signal comes through here, it starts echoing and getting filtered, and then, but there's an auto wah here, and here's a filter that's already oscillating, coming on and off with the sound, and every other one as that's going, that's wahing. So it's going wah, wah, wah. It's almost like that wah. That what is that? Disturbed? That horrible band. That pedal is set up to run like that, and so as it's doing that, this is peaking those peaks even more, making it talk, and then it's being filtered inside here. And then we go into this delay where it splits off in stereo, and we have a traditional echo with a long delay, and then a unbelievably long delay with a very short slapback echo. And these were separate chains as it split. One comes out and goes here to here, the other one comes out and goes here to here, and then those were sent to Perspective amps. You could pan back up. I sent one channel to a Roland JC50 or JC70. What is it?
I think it's a 50.
It's the 50. So yeah, it was just a crate practice amp on the other side, and that has built-in effects on it. So I set that to a reverb delay combo for an additional repeat. So, I mean, really with this, I was playing with it and doing different things. When you really turn it up a lot and have a lot of repeats and a lot of long delay time, you really have to watch how you play. And the peaks, like it's almost better to turn the tone down, really play with no dynamics, just barely scraping the picks, and have an overdrive or a boost to boost it up. So, or have it crank so you're just barely making breathing on it because there's so much echo. So if you kind of, basically what you want to do is shut everything off, turn your longest delay on, and then your next longest delay. And what you're going to want to do is time those so that when the one is hitting on the one, the other's hitting on 2 or 4. So you want it to get it kind of musical. This was, it was not tuned. I had tuned it once, and then I played with this basically for about 2 hours today. And it was just kind of a wash of noise. And you can get it, like I said, if depending on what you want, really. So I would say the sky's the limit, but as far as taste goes, there's 2 tips I could give you is watch your long times, watch your repeats, really your repeats. And then the other thing is really your treble. This is a tip that I learned from Joe Gore, who's the Tone Fiend guy. He does looping, and he uses flat wound strings, which gives a flat tone. And he has guitars that are real, like there's no treble on them. They sound really like tone, like jazz guys. Jazz guys don't have any treble. So this is my music theory. So you can print that. Jazz guys, no treble. So when you're layering, he does looping. So he'll play a part, lock it in, play another part, and keep building this music. In order to have room dynamically and for the mix and just for you to be able to hear, if you cut the treble on your guitar, you're going to really be able to have much more definition, and the parts are going to play in the mix much better. So that's what I did here on the, how I accomplished that was turning the tone down on the guitar, and then also for the fuzz, I had the highs literally turned all the way down. Now the mid frequencies, I had those ganked up because this is well, it's the DF7, which has a bunch of clones of pedals in it, and one of the pedals that it clones is the MT2, the metal zone, And that's a big thing about all of the gain, none of the mids. That's the meme about that pedal. So I have it set with a lot of more mid-range, and the bass is crank, but the treble is almost all the way down. And I found that because of the nastiness of the distortion going through all of these delays, even with the filters on them, I found it much more pleasant to be able to get a little bit more volume with the fuzz, with the dirt on it, to just completely remove all the highs from the signal. And that worked very well for me. So that's my tips. I know that for this particular piece, I would have much rather have liked to have, my dynamics were inverted. When I had the clean guitar, it was loud, and when I used the dirt, it was quiet. So ultimately, if I had a house or if my neighbors weren't home, I would have been able to turn up the distortion, and it would have been the middle part of the piece. When I would have kicked the distortion on it, would have really overwhelmed you, and I could have had some feedback and then calmed it down and ended it clean, lowering the decibels. But that just can't always have our cake and eat it too when you live in an apartment. And this was something that I'm going to do. I'm going to do something like this once every 5 years. I don't want my neighbors, having to put up with 2 hours of. So I'm Petey Twofinger. Thanks for joining me. This has been.
How low can you go? Too many echo boxes.
Maybe there'll be a part 2 in 5 years. Or if I win the lottery and get a house, I can set my stuff up in the basement and live like a happy man. You guys, thanks for joining me. And peace.
Peace.